Dear Christ, I was concerned as to why this story took on such a sexy life this weekend. I know how to handle stories very well. The no comment mutual agreement we decided on Thursday was decided. As a matter of fact, I was very assuring to Jill that she should waste zero time on it. I know how to make these things go away by leaving them be, it never fails. So, as the story grew, I knew there must be a leak, and the leak has proven to be you, going back on your word in the very first instance of your new resolution to try to see what can work. I could have spun this and told the truth and very much embarrassed you this weekend, but I did not. It would have hurt the catalog of Kurt's songs to take this to the public. I also know that no one went physically into the Seattle courthouse at any time, including when the story first broke. I also, as of tonight, now know that you have been speaking off the record with reporters at the PI. I also know that until this morning at the latest, maybe even late this afternoon, your site Murky Slew held not only your declaration but also other disparaging things about me and my family and was linked to the PI's site. Perhaps a month ago, in the face of the judge's decision, would have been a wise time to take this down from your website? In your own, now public, words, this case is about who was in the band. As I think you realize, that may be true if you were trying this case in the local cafeteria of Spin magazine in 1996, but it is a true and total absurdity in a court of law, as anyone with civics class knowledge will tell you. This case is about sidemen who were in the van but own nothing but their artist's masters telling someone's wife and heir what to do when they tell her at all. In discovery, the years of disrespect, libel, slander, bearing false witness, and sleaze will come forth. Not copying me or putting the input of the family into anything will come forth. Your mother's and also Dave's mother's bank accounts versus Wendy O'Connor's and John Silva's will come forth. It will be ugly. When you made the quote, I wonder what Kurt would think, you can wonder all you want, but the law decrees that you have no right to act upon that. You formed a false LLC when I was stoned and grieving. For years, I've tried to work it out privately, and you wouldn't allow that. Then, when I proved that not only am I willing to take this all the way and strip you of any more power you may have to hurt Kurt, having hurt him for so many years in his lifetime, having treated him like shit, turning your head on his medical conditions, and simply boorishly yelling judgments and declarations instead of helping me get him fed, seen by doctors, or to stop touring, you forced the entire situation on me, his wife, a situation I dealt with to the best of my ability because I am his wife and loved him very much, and these things were my duty, and even after this slanderous business. She's a bitch, so, like, bitches can't be wives, Your Honor, as your usual bullshit defense, which no judge of any stripe is going to hear as a legal argument. I am gracious enough only because I like Jill Berliner, not because I value your input, which can only be totally destructive, as you've proven time and time again with your ranting against exactly the ghosts which don't exist while permitting complete ignorance about the music business itself, to allow us to graciously discuss a way where you will still maintain some dignity, have input, and in no way be publicly embarrassed. I do this also out of concern for you. Marriage, like blood, is a sacred institution in this country, and the slander and libel, the Jersey Films lie, the Moulin Rouge lie, the how you are discreet with press lie, the Silva doing a good job lie, every sentence a lie, you just put me through and then left up on your website has forced me with no other option but to take this to trial in December. Because you cannot be trusted on even a simple thing like this. You cannot keep your word, and Jill cannot control you to not hurt the catalog. I will inform Yale and Jill in the morning. This behavior is pathological, and I know, as do we all, what causes it. Years ago, I had to go into a 12-step program. It was very hard to do, and it was the best thing for me. My ability to stay off of narcotics has brought me many blessings, and I would hope that for you, you will seek help for your alcohol issues, which are only going to destroy your life in the end. Sincerely, Courtney Love Cobain. They fired the first guy, but they never fired the rest of them. I forget the name. Blee's Funeral Home? Is that it? Blight's Funeral Home? Anyway, they didn't fire anyone else. They all probably still work there. Will Smart, Houston, Texas, attorney at law. Call and say, I'm from Time magazine, and I just found out about the Cobain incident, and we're about to bust your chain wide open. I have one question for you, Will, why did you torture his mother? Why didn't you do the right thing? You saw the evidence, the tapes. Why did you not pay damages to this woman and have the dignity to not tell her what they were for? How could you sit in a room going, oh, she's a bitch, wait till I get her on the stand, the Salem witch trial defense, and not have the ethics to take care of the boy's mother? Ask Will this. Wait, tell him, I'm doing an expose on the other case in Tacoma, this was the same chain, they did sort of the same thing with a female congresswoman, I think her name was Dixie, they danced with her and posed her in porno shots, about your whole chain. No one will trust you when I'm done with you. Why was your boner to get Courtney Love on the stand so you could talk about what a bitch she is more important than the damages you should have quietly paid Mrs. O'Connor, without causing her an image that will haunt her for the rest of her life? Call him. Someone lie and scare the shit out of Will Smart. I am going to the president of your company, and I'm taking this Vanity Fair from 6 years ago out about your practice of cremating the wrong people and overcharging for extra fees and all the corruption, and it's going to get you fired, and it will all suck because your witch trial boner superseded any ethics you may have had. You are $1 billion a year company, Will. Why didn't you just give this grieving mother a stipend? She didn't need to know why. Maybe Will Smart's boner for this will come back to haunt him. Charge the long distance to me. I can't for the life of me remember the name of the chain, but they are the biggest funeral home chain in the US, billions a year. They've bought every mom and pop funeral home, and they've been in big trouble before. But the fag? Was that necessary? The lawyer in the case was a Seattle lawyer named Brian Coluccio. Call Will Smart. That's what you can do for me. Make him scared. He knew it was no sweat to pay damages, but his sexist, evil Courtney is a bitch boner overrode it, so he's going to hell, I hope. Anyway, we should delete this tonight. It's not the story I want anyone to hear. I was just sad and sick and sad, and I'm still sad and sick and sad. He was so shy, she said. I wish I had a Xanax. I don't have one, and now I'm really fucking twisted and sad. Okay, here we are. I'll tell you more. Some little shit worked at the Seattle coroner's office. He volunteered to accompany the body to the funeral home. When he got there, he dressed the body, had his friends come, and videotaped him and his friends dancing with the body. They danced with him, then one of them cut him. They cut parts of him and they kept them. Then he somehow got a hold of the suicide note and made t-shirts of it. Then I found out in a really horrible way. Someone had taped this tape of them dancing with his body after they shaved his head. There are girls, I can't watch it, sitting, drinking beer while they play Pearl Jam music and dance with his body, broken and bloody. They shaved his head. Okay, you want more? This funeral home is part of a chain. Because Edward went through this with me when his mom died, he found out the funeral home was in the same chain, and he and his brother went there and stayed until she was put in the oven and cremated. The chain is $1 billion a year business based in Houston. I decided to quietly, and without telling Wendy and Kim, sue them for a lot. It seemed every employee at the home danced with him and cut him. Someone cut out his heart. I was going to take that money from these fuckers and just put it in Wendy's account. I knew if I publicized this, it would disgrace this poor kid even more. One of the guys carved words into him. The word I heard they carved was fag. Okay, is this great or what? So a pack of lawyers comes from Houston, and in Seattle there are no emotional damages, just punitive ones. And the lawyer says, I will take you on the stand for discovery, and I bluff and say, I will call Newsweek. There was a Vanity Fair article about your insane chain and how corrupt it is, he says, yeah, but I will get you on the stand and make you tell every dirty, bad thing you've ever done. I can't have this on the cover of Time, obviously. I say, look, give the mom and sisters $1 million and make this go away. He demands to meet them. They don't know, and I tell them. I soften the story a little. Kurt's mom walks into the deposition room. She doesn't hear the whole story and still does not know it all, but she just finds out about the dancing with him. It was the quietest I ever saw her be and the saddest thing I've ever heard another person say. She starts to weep and she says, after a long, long pause, my baby was so shy, and the whole room starts to cry. And then the Houston lawyer, his name is Will Smart, I'll never forget that name, says, lady, I'll give you $250,000 right now, and Wendy stood up very slowly, grabbed my hand, and said, I don't want your filthy money. Not now and not ever, and she leaves the room. That's the tip of sad. What would you have me do? Oh babe, there's more that's sad. That's up there, but there's worse stuff too. I'll delete this in a bit, and please respect this and don't copy it. I'm really emotional right now because no one knows this outside of the family and Charlie, and of course Chris, who blamed me somehow because, I'm a bitch. Will Smart, Houston lawyer. Prank his ass. Tell him I sent you. Tell him I'm a loose fucking cannon and I've gone crazy with repressed misery, whatever. Look him up. Will Smart, attorney. They knew I'd never denigrate his memory by taking this to the media. While you're at it, call Dr. Steve Scappa in LA. And ask him how he's not suicidal, he just needs to be separated from Courtney and Francis thing works. He's listed too. Go on, you want vengeance for Kurt? Get it. Chad is Kurt's half-brother. His father is Dawn. This shit does matter because I stuffed it in for years and just dealt. And now this asswipe makes this declaration that the judge threw in his face. I made the first move the next day after the judge said, "It's hers, not yours, goodbye," and said, "What would you like to do?" And obviously things will change, but I will keep you in this with me. No Dave, no John, no Gary, just me and you and your lawyer. You can get input from Dave, whatever, I just don't want to hear about it. And let's get this ready for Christmas, but the changes have to be made," to which he said okay. Did I ask for a public apology? No. Did I ask for the past to be revisited? No. And Thursday, someone at the Seattle paper found out what had gone down, and I said to his lawyer, "No sweat, just no comment on it. It'll die. It's too confusing and they won't figure out what it's really about, and it'll just cruise somewhere into Courtney's Martin Luther King music war and no one will know," and she was so relieved and called her client, Chris, who the entire time had left this shit up on his website after making a huge deal about the no comment thing. He will always fuck stuff up. He hated Kurt. He treated him like shit. I cannot have him around. It will never work. No discussions will get made. Unless, of course, you're a bigger fan of Wishka than you are of any other material. That was Christ's project. I decided to let him do it. His lawyer defended the terrible choices made on their selfish things Chris liked, not Kurt. And of course Nirvana was a band. They've got a vast amount of money to show for it and always will, which is more than Hendrix's guys. Hendrix's guys were also a band, and at the time people knew their names too. He said it was something he needed to work out. Well, it's indefensible, defiling the catalog of Kurt's songs. Could you repeat that like a mantra, please? Kurt wrote his own songs. Chris and Dave wrote nothing. He made a will. He also died without it being more than a draft, but it too exists as a document I will actually sign by us both that left what was needed to be left to me, his mom, his daughter, his sisters, and his half-brother Chad, as well as people like Alex McLeod. The person mentioning Kelly knows that Alex was the only fucking person that ever, other than Eric, helped me with hospitals and ambulances and the whole other shit. No one else did, and then Alex was forbidden to do anything. Leaving the whole fucking meltdown in my and Eric and Pat Smear's laps, and a few other people. In the will, people who I have given things to. But it doesn't matter because I do things according to his will, and I can't wait until we go to trial and I get to pop this document which states clearly that those two guys and any member of my family, I think we know who that was, I put that in myself, can't have anything to do with his musical future. Suppose I had died first? I almost did once. Wonder what that would have been like. Lots of times I think it would have been cooler if I had died instead. Death can't possibly be that bad. It must be sort of okay, or everyone wouldn't do it so much. I bet he'd have checked his shit real fast, gotten clean, married someone even nastier and bitchier than me. Who? It's sort of a fun game I like to play. A lot of girls pretend they went out with him. I know Drew had this thing about it. The birthday's the same, the basic sweet, secret, grumpy nature the same. Would he have had a Winona phase? Would he have made friends with Cameron Crowe? Would he have had a movie star girl phase? Who would Kurt have dated had he lived, and I died or we broke up? And if I was watching from the dead, which I sometimes think he does, not into the Gavin thing, I could feel it. One thing for absolute natural fact truth, he'd have dumped those two shits, as he already had publicly, if he had lived, in a minute. You know, whenever these people say they were getting a divorce, it's so sick. Where do they get this? I once asked our lawyer in the middle of a fight to get me divorce papers, really loud so he could hear me and also maybe stop waving a fucking gun around. One thing I know, in that universe of hell we lived in, someone was going to die. Every time I go to Seattle, I walk by that pizza place, the last place anyone ever saw him except the dealer. Charlie Cross went and found the dealer. She changed her name and works at an Olive Garden in Portland. She claims she was not the dealer, but I'm almost positive it was a female. Charlie thinks it was a random dealer on the hill by Duke's. He knows, actually, but he's making me wait until I read the book. I realize no way were we ever getting out of this alive, neither of us. Wanna know, while we're all sharing, how I ended up with Tom Grant? It was a Sunday or near Easter or something. I called the manager. He had split the rehab. I called because I fucking knew. The nurse said he'd gone for a chest x-ray. Fucking chest x-ray? I also knew Steve Scappa, the shrink, who's a total loser and still gets the rockstar junkies but doesn't bother telling them this major fuck up of his. The ego. This shithead was like a peacock. He would control Kurt. No one else was allowed to call him. And you know, they have this fundamental bullshit thing in these rock and roll junkie couple things I would like to warn all of you who ever get in a codependent relationship about. We have to split them up, big fucking mistake. So here's this nurse, she's telling me chest x-ray? Chest x-ray? I fucking knew. Gibby Haynes was in there. I knew all the dealers except downtown, of course. I went to Nyler's house. He was a jabberjaw guy in our neighbor when, and this is a rich one, when Nevermind was number one, like Eminem scary famous number one, we lived in a shitty apartment near Cantor's. It was small and sick. I had just gotten a huge amount of cash from a deal I had made, and that's all we had, a couple $100,000 in my formerly non-existent city national checking account. So we lived on that, tour money, dope money, our food money. Anyway, we read in the Wall Street Journal that Nirvana had made Geffen Records over $100 million so far. I found it and Kurt said, fuck this, and took a cab to Silva's office. I told him to get Silva to find us a sublet in Malibu, a sort of other part of the song. If you were following my Swordfish XBF part, I knew Malibu was safe and the dealers would come around less. I stayed home. We took a lot of pictures of each other back then, and I, for some reason, took his picture when he walked back in the door. He was carrying a globe of the earth he'd made the cab guy wait for him to buy, and he looks really sad and pissed. What happened at the Gold Mountain office? He tells me, I am going to kill Silva. Why? Silva is sitting in there with Kim fucking Gordon, and I walk in and I say, look, I live in a shithole. You're about to get $1 million for me in a week. Courtney's got her publishing money, whatever. We want to live somewhere near the beach and in Malibu, and we need a sublet, and? Silva sort of looks away and Kim says to me, really mean, what, is John your realtor now? My jaw was dropping on the floor. This is a basic service one performs for any client, especially the client that has just made you rich, when last week you had House of Freaks, Sonic Youth, who aren't exactly pulling it in despite their cred, and fucking Red Cross, who as far as I knew had adequate housing. So here's Kim, this jealous upper middle class bitch, if Kurt is to be believed, which, unless drugs were the topic, with me wasn't a liar at all. Except Charlie tells me he made out with a girl at a dealer's house when we were married. Like I give a shit. I just love to know if he fucked her, except when he got that stoned, like anyone could get it up? And I wonder if it was that lame Taco Bell chick who posted on here. Maybe it's true. I honestly don't think making out with someone at the dealer's house, probably the dealer to get your dope, counts, telling Kurt that John wasn't a realtor. John's a fucking millionaire, we have stalkers, dealers, and live in a slum at the height of Nevermind. Did you kick his fucking ass? I ask Kurt, Mr. Pisces man, people pleaser, hold it inside. He says, no, I walked out of there, then he shows me his hand, which is swollen from punching the wall. So I call Silva. You're not a realtor? You fuck, you're not a what? You get us the fuck out of here and you do it now. Mumble mumble. Fuck you, John. 3 weeks later, John Big Daddy Fuckhead comes through with what? A fucking bungalow in a slum in fucking Venice where there are even more dealers. It's a slum. We now do have millions, and maybe an extra million, and we can afford anything, but I'm calling like roommate finder because I don't know how to call realtors, and I don't even know if my formerly shitty and Kurt's totally non-existent credit is fixed yet. And they are baffled. We should have had a nice house in Malibu by the beach, but you know, Kim says John's not a realtor. So, you want more? So Nyler was called Ratty by most people, that was his nickname. And Charlie tells me Nyler picks him up from Exodus, which maybe explains some more Erlandson heroics. I knew that Eric found and beat the fuck out of Nyler a few years ago, but I only find out 4 months ago because Charlie tells me that Nyler picks him up after he climbs the wall and takes him to his house. As soon as this nurse says chest x-ray, I'm like a fucking lightning bolt, calling the head of the hospital. In my soul, I know I've just missed him, but he's got to be in LA Perry Farrell? Nyler? Where's he going to go? I jump in a cab and go to Nyler's house. I don't know where Perry lives anymore. Rock trivia, BTW, when Perry lived on St. Andrews of the Jane Says song, he was the groovy dope dealer, of course. On the rare occasions I had the cash for dope, I wasn't cool enough to actually go into the house where Jane lived and Perry dealt, so I'd wait in the car while Finch coped for us. I also wasn't cool enough to get dope from Fabrice, who was the Chili Peppers dealer who killed Hillel Slovak, who died because he was an idiot and did dope alone, which, if you watch Jesus' Son, illustrates exactly why people who do dope alone die and people who don't, live. I'm calling Eric in Seattle and screaming at him to check the airline schedule. The assholes at Exodus won't confirm whether Kurt's gone. You know, interestingly, I don't know of one person who went to Exodus and stayed clean. Isn't that funny? Gotta have a rehab that doesn't work in LA, I guess. They are being dicks, but I know chest x-ray means they can't find him. Charlie Cross, the guy who wrote the book Coming Out, thinks Kurt was there at Nyler's house. Now I know why Eric stalked him. Eric Nyler and his creepy girlfriend are no longer with us here in LA, but I did recently hear his name, wherein a certain very brilliant and very fucked up actress that most people who like Hole like a lot, who's sweet and lovely and a fucking mess, asks me in the bathroom at the Golden Globes if I want to go to Nyler's house with her before we go to the parties. Whoa. I didn't know you're allowed to be a junkie and a movie star. They told me you weren't. I felt really bad for her. Mostly I looked at her tracks and thought, how the fuck is Nyler still even dealing dope? And why the hell does she think I still do it? Like I'd ever stick a needle in me after all this shit. Anyway, yeah, me and Charlene Tilton, you get it here first. I believe that Kurt was in the back room at Nyler's. He copped and got on a plane to Seattle. You know who was on that plane? Duff McKagan, the Guns N' Roses bassist. They get drunk together on the plane, and Duff offers him a ride, another Charlie fact I had no clue. He declines and takes a cab instead. I am fucked. I know this is fucked, and the sink is going to fall into the floorboards. Eric goes to the house and grabs the guns and bullets. I call Silva. What do I say, kids? Find Chris and get him over to the house and get me a private detective. Silva, now a rich man, says, this isn't my job. Call the lawyer. I call the lawyer. She's on vacation. I call the hotel fucking concierge, hysterical. We don't have private detectives. I open the yellow pages and just start dialing, and I will always remember this shit. The first guy was from Eagle Detective, and I thought he was really scary, a dark little guy. The next guy is our man, Tom. Whatever, he looks okay. I don't care. I need him to do one thing, go to Seattle and find this fucking guy now. He tells me he comes to the hotel I'm at a lot for some hooker business. I can't figure that out now. Is that like blackmailing people with hookers? He tells me some hooker stories I can't remember. He's with some kid of his too, if I recall correctly. I tell him exactly what to do, every dealer, keep one guy at the house, and let Kurt be. Do not try to get him to go to rehab. Let him know I don't care, and don't try to stop dealers from being at the house or he'll just go to their house. Go to the Carnation House. Check every room, the basement, garage, the whole thing. This idiot goes up there and I have to call the cops because he doesn't. He's too stupid. I tried hiring a second guy right away as soon as I sent him because he was trying to leave the next day and I said, no, you fucking leave now. Anyway, my door knocks in the morning. It's fucking Eric. Why the fuck is the one person who can prevent this in LA? I heard you were dead and Kurt was here. Get back on the plane. Shit. We both looked at each other and I just knew. Eric went to go get back on the plane. Then I call Nyler to get some drugs, for fuck's sake, and call my mother-in-law to come take care of my kid. And Nyler comes, or someone of his people, and gives me some shitty little bit of drugs, which I do, but it's crap. And then my arm explodes into a rash of shit. Want me to keep going? Yeah, okay, I will. So I call downstairs because my arm's blowing up. Meanwhile, I'm on a phone with a stupid-ass, fat-ass Yellow Pages private investigator who is not doing what I'm telling him to do. The concierge brings me some Benadryl, which I take, and my arm stops exploding. I start to pack and cancel Kurt's fucking ATM so he can't withdraw any more money. That way, he has to call me. I call the fucking manager again, tell him Kurt's going to die. He now says, well, there's nothing we can do at this point. I ask him if he has called Chris to go to the house. Chris doesn't feel this is his responsibility anymore. Knock, knock. It's the fucking cops, West Hollywood Sheriff's Department. I shit you not, this guy is named Detective Buttkiss, pronounced Buttkiss. I get a traffic ticket from this fucker years later. He pulls me and Norton over in West Hollywood, walks up to the car, sees me, and without one word, he turns on his heels and runs to his car. Fucking pussy. And his squad concierge boy has noticed my state. Let's not discuss that I have a hold on my phone for everyone but my husband. And a month later, I see the phone bill, and on April 3rd at 7-something am, there's a call from our private line to the hotel, and they didn't put it through. That's the Sweet Peninsula Hotel, where I will not enter ever under any circumstance. Butts goes through my shit, and he finds one of Steve Scappa's prescription pads that the fool left in my room. A fucking doctor leaves his pad in my room. Then they go through my safe and steal my pearls and a ring. And there's my lawyer's idiot ashram ashes, the very best day of my life, to have idiot ashram ashes from her fool guru that manifests necklaces and turns them into ashes. This is her and her husband's yearly fucking India pilgrimage. It's fucking ashes, I say. Yeah, right. They cuff my ass and haul me into the jailhouse. And I'm sitting there in the Beverly Hills police station, and I get this flash in my head, and I see a flash. I cannot explain this, and no one here really knows me, so I'm just digitally venting things I don't even talk about except to Jim and to Edward and to Eric. But I see it and I feel it and I know. All of a sudden, the lawyer appears, a criminal lawyer, my lawyer who has magically appeared, you know, the one on vacation that couldn't find me a real private investigator. And she takes me to Exodus now because I'm like a group homegirl, no one wants me. I leave Frances with her and wait for her grandmother to come. And I sleep and I wake up, and the television is on to the hospital Nature Cancer People station. There's a wren and a sparrow in a golden field. It's just images you watch while you die. And I go to touch the remote, but I don't. Something stops me. I just don't change the channel. I'm in the hospital, not the rehab part. I guess I just need to be in a hospital, I don't know. And Rosemary walks in my room and she looks dead, and I scream. And scream. And scream. And I think it's an overdose, because Eric took the guns out. And I don't find out it's not an overdose until way after all the rest of you know what the fucker did. And that's almost the end. Oh yeah, except Steve Scappa, the idiot, won't give me a Valium. He's still, you know, in control, because he's done such a great job of controlling this insane situation. And I get a Learjet and grab my fucking kid and walk into that fucking greenhouse. And fuck you. Are those assholes even relevant to this story anymore? Shall I tell you what the people at the funeral home did to his little body? Shall I? Yeah, well I fucking won't. Shall I tell you what the people at the coroner did to his hair, his toenails, his clothes? His pubic hair? Shall I? You haven't seen shit. How about that? Sad? No man, those are just the happy parts. The sad parts are worse. Those are just the clips and hurry and action and facts. The sad parts are worse and gross and dirty and make me wonder if there is a reason to even exist sometimes, because God is an atrocious piece of shit to let some of the things I've seen happen. And maybe there isn't a fucking God whatsoever. Sick, bad things. Sick, evil things, evil in ways that are too evil to even post, even when I'm brain dead fucked. Okay, you want it? I'll fucking tell you. No, even then I have to pull back from telling anyone the sad parts. Why the fuck don't I have a needle in my arm right this second? I don't know, but some nights I wish I still knew those people. And if it wasn't for the person sleeping upstairs, I'd be dead. But other than Edward or Drew, who would I leave her with? Jesus fuck. And oh yeah, by the way, I agree it should have been me instead. No shit. How many times a day do you think I wish I was dead? And then I try at least to make myself useful. Like career suicide might be useful anyway to someone, somewhere. Fuck it. No, those guys don't have the tapes. Eric went through the house, and I have the tapes, although one tape turned up stolen from my home during Kurt's funeral. That's one of the tunes in question. Now, let's get this straight. From the Supreme Court to Judge Judy, there isn't a discussion. Someone dies, their shit goes to their family. It doesn't go to anyone else. Casey didn't have a partnership with those guys, and he didn't want one. That's number one. Number two, the more outrageous and lame part, if Jill Emery, Caroline Rue, Melissa After Moore, Jason Everman, Chad Channing, or any ex-member of any band tried to have precedence over my husband or child in the event of my death in any decision to do with the songs I wrote. In Casey's case, he wrote 96% of the Nirvana songs you've already heard and 100% of the ones in Mike's safe deposit box. I would have loved to not only put out a box set, which is about $80 to $100 and too much, in my opinion, but also an album of these songs, like 12 tracks, period. It needs to be done correctly, and as the heir to this stuff, it's my responsibility to see that it is done correctly. I'm already loaded for bear when I read some of this inane garbage you kids write. Did you see too many Tommy Hilfiger ads today? It's not a financial issue, although for some people it is. Kurt's songs, of which he and no one else composed every note and every lyric of and arranged, are their principal and sole source of income. Most of Kurt's money goes into a trust for Francis, and the rest goes some to me and a lot to his mom and 2 sisters. I'd like to see that amount to not only the mom and sisters but also to Chad Cobain increased. And I'd like you to look at Kurt's mother's bank statements. When I give her money, which obviously I do, or buy her a house, because of tax laws I pay the friendly IRS 51% of that money, and compare them to Maria Novoselic's or Virginia Grohl's bank statements. Those boys have 10 to 15 million in net worth for songs they didn't write. Their moms have ranches and nice spreads, and I have a lot of mouths to feed with Kurt's money. In the history of rock and roll, it has never occurred that Elvis's or Trent's or Billy's are my sidemen, and yes, they were in a band, and yes, they played on those records, just like the members of Nina or Elvis's long-term players, did something like this. In the case of Nirvana, Kurt was punk enough, especially since Chris had stuck with him, to give him a piece of the rock rather than some salary. But he also officially and legally denied any sort of partnership while living. So whoever said he didn't, he did. Unfortunately, it was overlooked by my attorney at the time, but the document he wrote stating this was unacceptable exists and will be brought to court. Nothing like this lame, has occurred, and I dealt with this privately for a long time, especially in light of the whole Foo Fighters thing. Dave has a band which sells a bit, not a lot, but some, enough to have him obviously want to continue his career. I'm not the one guilty of trading on Nirvana, yet I have to put up with the hairshirt sexism that I am. I'm a fucking megalomaniac. I don't enjoy the power of men. Ask my last boyfriend, a huge movie star who I had to break up with because I could not take the whole way we were becoming the Kidman/Cruz of our circle, and I felt people were trying to give me parts to curry favor with him. My whole being was fuck, here we go again, and as much as I loved and still do love that guy, I want nothing to do with being a power couple. I went out with the movie star for 3 years and never once walked down a red carpet or allowed myself to be photographed with him publicly. The whole thing was so distasteful to me. The only time I allowed that in my marriage was when the city of LA was trying to take custody of our child away from us, so we went to some MTV thing, the three of us, because the editor of the LA Times who was trying to help us said, "Give me a family outing picture." I hated the idea of allowing my kid to be photographed, and I hated the idea of being photographed in public with my husband because I hate that shit in general, but I did it, and it actually worked. Those social services people left us the fuck alone. Anyway, you've built a myth around me, a negative one. I have a lot of negative attributes. I have, in fact, a shrine to the goddess Kali. But the myth you kids have built over there in your Kurt reverie is so off, it couldn't be more off, and it's torture having to deal with it. Call me a whore, call me a bitch. I was raised to expect this, and I asked for it by being aggressive and confrontational as one of the only female rock stars. I knew this would happen since I was 5 years old. But what I never expected, because I was raised by a feminist in a feminist household, was to have to endure that males are more important than I was, or anyone with ovaries is. I see this occasionally, but I saw this in this thread. I'm not addressing the author, she's too stupid. Kurt had a drug problem, Courtney played on that, excuse me? Is this like the insane person who posted about some imaginary van with imaginary/tires? This is shit. It's real deep shit. And Dave, in particular, has used this shit, knowing a certain segment of dumber and ill-informed and not aware kids would protect him from the witch. I had a severe and terrible drug problem too, one I dealt with. The way Chris needs to deal with his alcoholism. His wife, who I was glad to have around as she was rational and kept him in check, left him. She couldn't take being physically abused, I only heard this and wasn't there for that, but that's the word in Seattle, and couldn't take the drunkenness anymore. I didn't want this to be a public dispute, to protect all involved, but it's turning into one. Understand this, young lady, I and my family own Kurt. That's estate law for dummies. We are trying to get this music to you, again, in a tasteful manner with deals that are fair to the family and to, I might add, Kristen Dave. Universal Music allowed a sample of Teen Spirit to be used on a German dance track called Monster Sound. It went to number 18 on the German charts. This is contractually forbidden, and they are trying to pay me off to get me to shut up about it. But they cannot be trusted with one of the jewels in the Universal catalog, and they need to give the masters back. Of course, this is a no-brainer, and any lawyer can see we have a real opener to make sure Universal does nothing else, such as sell songs to cookies and McDonald's and Pepsi, all things they would do in a heartbeat if I wasn't around to protect this. But if I force the hand of Universal, well then, the hands on the puppet strings of the Foo Fighter promotional budget at Capitol, same managers and same lawyers, might punish Dave, mightn't they? It's not a question, they threatened already. So is he compromised? Of course he is. Am I? No. Why? Number 1, I don't give a fuck. These fuckers don't scare me, and I'm happy to go be a field nigger and leave the big house. Fuck them, and fuck the hundreds of thousands of artists they screw and leave with no teeth and no medical benefits. That includes Kurt, who should have been sent to fucking Mustique or Maui and taken off the road. And they just couldn't stop, could they? Ask me, or better yet, get the book next month, about the time those dicks charged into rehab 4 days into a detox with some coked out MTV employee we were all fond of at the time. Her job? Handling, a sort of Jewish word for manipulating, Nirvana, then other bands she was friends with and eventually did drugs with, Bush, etc. Until she could no longer pull this shit and got fired. Those two guys, marched her into this hospital where the man was dying. The one day I went to the gynecologist and left him alone, and begged him to break his rehab and play the MTV Awards. And she said, "Oh, if you don't play, I'll be fired," and they said, "You gotta do it." So he ran from rehab, and of course he did dope, and then they acted like he was a leper, even though he couldn't move from the pain. I once grabbed the sleazeball manager in Dublin and dragged him across the hall by his fucking hair into our room. There was a skinny, broken, dying man on the bathroom floor puking bile. He was in more pain than God should ever give anyone. Is this a fake now, you fuck? I fought so hard to get that guy off the road, and they always convinced him that he had to do it or the world would fall apart, he'd lose his standing, they wouldn't chart, etc., etc. Or how about Rome, you little conspiracy brats? Now that you've got me furious, I've put up with this shit for almost a decade, and maybe I should just take this to fucking trial so the irrefutable facts of gross neglect will be public record. Where at 7 a.m., when I awake to a blue-faced, rigor mortis, dead person who took every Rohypnol he could find, with a baby in the next room, I call to these fucking Italians downstairs screaming. And then I call the manager, and I call. Well, I don't know why, but I thought maybe it would be appropriate. The other crew and band members. Was there one response from these asswipes as "This guy is dead, my friend, lover, father of my child"? No, they all ran screaming, and I went to the hospital alone. I'm surprised I even had the luxury of childcare, gee thanks. Was there a visit to the hospital as this guy died and miraculously did not? From any of them? Hell no. You know who got on a plane? His mom and Eric and Pat Smear. And many, many hours later, the manager. Where were these assholes? Scared in their rooms while their writer, singer, and leader was in an oxygen tent and his child was with some Italian hotel nanny. Can you imagine going through this shit and then listening to you little fucks whine and whine? And you know the sick thing? Chris and Dave have known for years all the things they could say to make you kids shut the fuck up. Why don't they? It would hurt their power base, wouldn't it? The very jockey, dumb fans even they hated then, although Dave the Jock has reformed this, as you're his sole means of small-time support, but it's Kurt's songs that bought his mother her ranch in Virginia, are the ones who they depend on to say these stupid things over and over again. You know, I didn't want to take this to any judge because it's a no-brainer. No one can form a partnership over one person's property, period, in any state, in any year, on any planet. But in some ways, maybe it's best to get these facts on public record. Everyone knows, yet there's a wall of silence. Even Sean and Paul, who produced live through this and were there for most of the writing process, never say anything. They never say anyone wrote it but me, but they are never men about it and say when doing interviews for the most successful record they've both made a couple million on, they never say, "Well, Courtney and Eric wrote it, we saw, it's sick." That one I've never figured out. I once started trying to write them a letter but didn't, as my waspy ex-boyfriend once told me, "It's beneath your dignity, don't bother," but it still pisses me off. What do they have to gain? K and D are just greedy for power over something they legally and totally have no power over. You can opine all you want, it doesn't matter. Someone dies, someone inherits their shit. That someone is me and my kid. End of discussion. The LLC is bogus, was formed in a bogus manner, and this is demonstrable. But why the LTT producers? Is this a feminist thing? They know too, and yet they never stick it in any interview. Why? Any smart or academic feminists reading this, tell me why. Is it too fun to let it sit? They know, and think of poor Eric's emasculation. He won't address it because he's a Buddhist, and he says the truth will out, and the truth is out. Edward Norton's late grandfather used to say, when the nail is taller than the rest, they try to hammer that nail down the smallest, i.e., my present boyfriend, Jim, was backstage with the manager, someone he had been friendly with at Harvard. I don't remember this, but this is when he said he fell in love with me. Apparently, I walked in with a massive, steaming plate of macaroni and cheese. This was a Nirvana show, only it wasn't what Kurt had demanded when he agreed to do this fool tour. I should have done the fucking tours and put him on an island with Francis and some good painkillers and some paintbrushes and clay, and I didn't. So I walk in with this mac and cheese, and it's got fancy pasta and pimento and peppers in it. It's not Kraft macaroni and dumbass cheese. No, fuck that. Fuck the guy who's paying us 200 to 300,000 a night with an ulcerated stomach who throws up bile almost every night. Let's just eat our upper middle class, newfound riches rock food and not feed the fucker who makes us the cash. And apparently, I said without yelling, Silva, this is fucking unacceptable. You have an artist who cannot move and who has not eaten in 2 days because you asswipes won't get him Van de Kamp's fish sticks and fucking Kraft mac and cheese, Silva shrugged. He rolled his eyes at my now boyfriend and said as I left, to go to the store and get some fucking food for my husband who made a mint for these assholes so I could fucking microwave it, see what I have to put up with? Jesus, my now boyfriend claims, and I believe him because he's my boyfriend, that he nailed Silva and said, oh, fuck you, John. You're the one making money off him. Why is there pimento in his fucking fancy pasta? Silva says, it's what the other members of the band want. Yeah, you think that over, you little shit, and wonder as to why we hid in our cave. I hate revisiting this shit, but you got me pissed. Dead man at my feet, Call the tour manager? Other members of the band? Get an ambulance for a dead husband? I don't fucking think so. The last time me and Kurt saw Dave, he came over right after Francis was born and kind of looked like the popular guy who'd just been caught in a real gnarly predicament. His meal ticket was fucked up, and his wife, me, the one you know he tried to pick up and declared he was going to fuck 3 years before, was a mess. He just backed away. I can still see him backing out the door, backwards, 'cause he's a yellow-livered coward. And you know what else? This asshole husband of mine killed himself with a gun, an act of such total and complete rage and potency in its own narcissistic, sick, and, annoying way. And you would take that act away from him? It's his act of masculinity, of taking his power, of rage. And you make him into a mewling fag who couldn't even take his own life? It's sick. Let him have his fucking dignity with his own selfishness and rage, and possibly, in my opinion, brain damage from the near 40 minutes his brain had no oxygen in Rome. He was never the same for the rest of his time. And who the hell ever said that a junkie has to not be a junkie? What would you rather have? A junkie who is functional and is alive and living, or a dead person? That's the puritanical, tyrannical message he received when they sprung their fucking intervention, the one where Dave was missing anyway. Anyway, this will get covered in Charlie's book and I won't have to ever have these stupid discussions again. When I asked my boyfriend why that made him love me, he said, because I thought you were fierce and I thought you would kill anyone who hurt your family. I asked him if I was yelling or anything in the mac and cheese / Silva incident. He tells me I was actually reasonable and not even rude, which I'd have punched the fucker. Why don't you ask Kurt's mother what she thinks? Or is she, as Christ's mother said to some friend in Olympia, she was a slut in high school and she's still a slut? This is rich coming from a Novoselic whose son barely stuck in a band with Kurt and made him pay every step of the way. Why did Kurt sleep in the emergency room and under a bridge? Because Christ wouldn't let him sleep at his house, that's why. Shut the fuck up. Sometimes I think he deserves nothing. His idiotic rich mother, who lives off Kurt's songs, calling my mother-in-law a slut. She has some part-time job at the Bon Marché, and Kurt's sister Kim and me want to go in there and punch her. Anyway, enough indulging your bullshit. I'm pretty fucking strong, but this is years and years of this bullshit. I became a fucking nurse and I wasn't equipped for it, really. Do I think he would still be alive if I had grabbed him and taken him to an island somewhere? Fuck yes. And I have to live with these assholes and how they ran their intervention every day of my life. And even more so, a kid who never met her dad. So fuck these assholes. My daughter fucking cried today about it, out by herself in the backyard as she does a few times a week. She is the only kid in her class without a dad, and she can't even remember him. So fuck you. I can feed myself fine. I get paid. But even if I could not, it's not your business. If you think I'm a bitch, because Kurt was pretty much a bastard, we were very well suited, thanks. Plus he was my best friend. Plus jocks like you drove him nuts. That's a natural fact. Plus none of these people, Chris especially, considering he was with Kurt a long time, helped him towards the end. Patty and Eric and Pat Smear did that. That includes 24-hour patrol for 3 months straight, keeping the ODs out of the paper, keeping the suicide attempts, and there were a lot, out of the paper. Does the drummer in 9 Inch Nails have that? I hardly think so. This was a simple case of one aspect, a partnership agreement totally illegally formed by a smart lawyer while my lawyer, who happened to also be Kurt's, was out of her mind grieving and flipping out and freaking. She had arranged his intervention and had a nervous breakdown right after his death. She's okay now, but for a few years she was fucked up. She didn't think to deal with this woman, and maybe she was worried I might not pull through. Whatever the case, their lawyer, Jill, who I like an awful lot, outsmarted her and illegally formed an LLC/partnership. It hasn't functioned. If I say, let's put out the box set, they say no. I can still put it out, but I'm polite, or have been until now, and have felt the same stupid Gen X oh well, dude, they were in the band feeling. Finally, a smart lawyer looked at this thing and started laughing. What is this piece of shit? It's totally illegal. No one forms an LLC based on one person's ownership. How loud do I need to shout again? Please, cram it. It's not one song, it's 120 tapes of songs. Songs that you haven't heard and that haven't been bootlegged. There are many, many, many songs. Is that really clear now? Things you haven't heard. There are 8 Chris and Dave Nirvana songs, 6 Eric and Pat Smear Nirvana songs, and a vast amount of 4-track and 8-track solo acoustic Nirvana songs, covering 120-something tapes with different types, everything from cassette to 24-track. Songs. That's called a legacy for my family and my daughter. By the way, only one person wrote every note of every one of those Nirvana songs, the same way Trent Reznor writes 9 Inch Nails songs or me and Eric write whole songs or Billy Corgan writes Smashing Pumpkins songs. Only more so. Is that CLEAR? I do have it, and my daughter has it, and upon my death, his mother and sisters have it. Go watch The Godfather. Those other 2 guys didn't write anything. Should Chris Renna and Robin have power over Trent's music? Should James IHA have power over Billy's music, or should Yelena and his mother? Should Ringo have power over John Lennon's music, or should his wife and son? Duh. And then the bottom line is, this isn't a question. I had it when I went into court. I went into court not simply for the bogus partnership, which gives Chris and Dave pretty much not much of anything, and remember, these guys have a net worth of $10 to $15 million apiece for their contribution, abandoning their bandmate, etc. I went there because Universal is a mess and I need to be able to protect and serve the legacy and the songs. And I don't need Dave's sleazeball manager using Nirvana songs Dave didn't write as leverage in Foo Fighter negotiations. I want the box set for $20 to $30. These guys want it for $80 to $100. Yikes. The golden retriever just farted and it really smells. I'll just give it for free to anyone I like and Kurt would have liked, and the rest of you can pay $500 for it. Or you could get some really cool Sweet 75 and Foo Fighter outtakes. Pick a side and don't be stupid. Kurt was my best friend, not yours and not his lame bandmates, other than Pat Smear, who he loved. So be real careful about turning his suicide, which was his defiance, his rage, and his stupidity too, into an emasculated fag joke. Let him have his fucking dignity, or at least rage, which is what suicide is. A shrink tells me gun to head is grief and gun in mouth is rage. You take that rage from him every time you emasculate his choice to do this asshole thing, which is undoubtedly and obviously an asshole thing. I didn't marry a corporation and I didn't marry an invalid. I married a really, really funny son of a bitch who was the most ambitious person I've ever known. One of the things I'm doing now is starting Nirvana.com, the real one, where you guys can hear all the fucked, weird cassette stuff, for free, an idea that those other guys were way unhappy with, and not an artist direct site, which is where the foos are, and they'd get bonuses and links if I'd be a fucking tard and do it there so Foo Man could have more chits. But one built by fans, run by fans. We're also, now that this shit is over, doing a book on Random House of all his gross out boy comics and all his funny, insane rantings and all his sweet junior high school fake band drawings and writings and stories and love letters to Tracy and Toby. I'll keep mine to myself, thanks. And the insanely funny 20 verses of written lyrics to every song, including Teen Spirit, where lounge singers from Las Vegas / Here We Are Now, entertain us, and his hysterical letters to record companies begging for his big shot, which is the stuff that makes me like him. And some of our nasty letter fights where we'd have who wrote better lyric fights, and they are vicious and funny. Fuck you I rule, no fuck you I am the king, no fuck you I am the queen. I'm doing this now because it's fun to see people see him as he was and would have wanted to be seen himself, not this distorted, passive saint person with no balls and no sexuality. The way you people talk, it's like he had a 3-inch dick. No story there. The man was hung. So don't take away the fact that he actually had a cock, knew how to use it, and was the world's sickest kisser. You forget he was the best fuck that ever walked. Slam you against the wall and beat your ass fuck. Amazing. No one is as good in bed as that guy was. You know the way he played guitar? Yeah, like times 50. He wasn't some fey mama's boy. He was a man, not a child and not an emasculated being. Anyway, I'll put it out now that these assholes are off my chest and the Foo Fighters are not a concern of Kurt's. God, he would have hated that so fucking much, and Dave knows it totally. His shame is what makes him write these inane songs. Almost all their subtext, forget that Courtney's a bitch ones, are I'm better than Kurt, I am. The Dave stuff has him spinning, not the fact that I got my saggy boobs unsagged. He would have thought it was cool. As far as your Jesus guy hating Hollywood? Hello? They offered him a part in the New Age and he was jumping up and down. He met Cusack and wanted to do a movie with him. He met Gus Van Sant and wanted to do a movie with him. He loved the idea of being a movie star, period. Someone posted in another thread one of the more sick, evil, and vile things this evening. Why should Wendy have more money than Chris or Dave's mom? Fuck you, idiot. Because her son wrote every chord and arranged every song and wrote every lyric. That's like asking why the drummer in Hendrix's band's mom shouldn't have the same as Hendrix. Go to high school, take a civics class, watch The Godfather, and be helpful here. We want to start a cool Nirvana.com and have it be great and have stuff that no one else has, so don't piss me off with this bullshit. Get together with yourselves, have a powwow, and stop insulting him and me and our kid. Some other asshole posted I was, teaching my daughter to be a slut? I'd say to that fine young person, I'll get your IP address and make sure you have to pay $600 for a box set. Do not insult my family. Think twice. Leave me alone. Give the man his dignity. Respect that I run the show and help us help you get the Kurt songs you want. Ever hear the sun? It's magical. Ever hear opinions? It's funny and sad. Ever hear Ivy League? It's sick. Ever hear me and Kurt having a cuss-out contest while singing Where Did You Sleep Last Night and laughing our asses off? It's funny. Ever hear the Pat Smear / Eric / Kurt songs? They're genius. Wanna hear 'em? Then help us build our site. Get together and banish the bad people Kurt would have hated who call me a whore and his daughter a slut and take away his final act of rage. Suicide is not something we should do, but in its own totally selfish way that stuck me with all this bullshit, it was his act as a man. Let's use it to help other kids not do it. Let's make a forum where kids can talk about drug use and depression in a real way without being judged or harassed or talked down to. Let's prove what the internet.com greetheads didn't get, that fans can build and run a site way better than corporate fuckers. Let's think about what the artwork should be. I'm open to anything cool and want this to be out by Christmas. Let's think about how to handle that this guy is dead, he killed himself, and how do we approach that as a group without it being gross? What would be tasteful and Kurt-approved funny ways to do it? Unify with us to make this work, or listen to shit that Sweet 75 makes, okay? Do you kids have a clubhouse? Hold a meeting, because there will be free files and stuff no one else has, and good forums for discussing suicidal thoughts and real answers about heroin, speed, coke, crack, etc., not some bullshit Loveline fake Dr. Drew answers, but real answers. And answers as to how you can be a great fuck and also a feminist too. Go convene. Monitor yourself so you aren't insulting me or my kid or Kurt's mom, and let's put an effort into showing the corporate assholes that fans can do this themselves. You can email Brooke with artwork and suggestions, and let's get the official site with official treats up and running. I don't like playing widow, and I don't want to do it. I want you to do it and leave us arty, snarky, smarty, funny, bitchy girls here at Hole alone so we can go back to discussing Hypatia and Shakespeare and the quest of the feminine before you rudely interrupted us. Are you someone Kay would have wanted as a fan? If you aren't insulting his family, you're halfway there. KC was not some bullying, misogynist jock. He liked me best in the world and I am, and as I've said, for every bitch inch I am, he was every inch a bastard, so we were really well suited. Stop turning him into something he would have despised you for. Unify and come back to us without this errant attitude, or we'll run it and we won't let you in. Degrading me or Francis or Wendy or Kim. Did I really see a Nirvana fan on here tonight calling Kim Cobain a dyke? Honey, you need to be at the Artist Direct Limp Bizkit site. We're picky. We like Nirvana fans who are up to standard, and no, you can't be in our club if you're a sexist, conspiracy theory homophobe lame ass. So unify if you're fans and figure it out, because I'm the only one who can build the Nirvana.com and I want your help. So help. Every piece of shit, bullshit, nasty remark is only tearing apart who he was. Give him the dignity, or at least gravity, his final act deserves. Stop talking about his dyke sister and his slut mother and his whore wife and his slut, 8-year-old, daughter. What is this phenomenon? You can register with Brooke and she'll check you out. But unify, make some rules you don't break. You're going to have some faith in me as I put on the loathsome widow hat in the pursuit of protecting the best friend and best fuck I've ever had. There's a lot to do. Want to put out and call me names and fuck things up, or as fans want to put some faith in me and Brooke to help us make a site that's really yours? Examine your sexism carefully. Kurt was the best friend, other than Edward and Jim and Milos Forman, I've ever had. He really was cool and funny and wicked. Celebrate that and respect that he was my best friend and stop the madness of your anger and craziness. You're going to hurt him and take away what he loved. Sure, there's always going to be some crackpot, she's a whore, she's a bitch, nightmare person. It's your responsibility, especially if you're in a Nirvana club, to help us make this site magical and special and helpful and cool. It's up to you. Good luck in Chinese food, CL. Then just help Brooke build a great site. We can have it up in the month. Just unify and stop trying to do your Chris and Dave thing. The judgment passed, it's over. There would be no Nirvana.com built by you guys if I let their sleazebag guys put it on Artist Direct to sell you shit. Kristen, Dave and Chad and Jason were all in Nirvana. Treat them nicely, like bandmates should be treated. I am not the shouter here in that scene, BTW. Christ is the shouter, and I'm not quoting him now. But the Marxism/anti-commercialism? I know what Kurt would have liked. The shit is over. The real fans, can build this site with no interference from me. The site is not about me. We at Hole are the smart, cunty girls and boys, and some are Nirvana fans and some aren't. We like to talk about feminism, poetry, tea, film, good rock, etc. Oh, there's another great thing in the Kurt box I just remembered. There are 6 boxes of his writing. It's his top 100 records of all time. It's so funny. Chris and Dave were getting ready to trade Nirvana.com to a sleazy place not run by fans. Brooke has this all figured out, and now, do it. I really appreciate the support. Stop whining about Chris. I will always try to give him his say. He knows that. He's just too unpredictable and destructive. He isn't allowed to destroy Kurt's tapes, and he isn't allowed to turn a blind eye while Gas tried to renegotiate Foo Fighters using Nirvana as leverage. Don't worry about that. Worry about Kurt, who is Nirvana, just solo stuff, i.e. Nirvana, Kurt with Pat and Eric and Patty, plus Nirvana, Kurt with Eric and Pat, plus Nirvana, Kurt by himself doing all these acoustic songs, equals Nirvana. I appreciate what you guys are trying to do, and you don't have to kiss my ass or whatever past for being cordial and unified to get something you and I both want done. Just don't stick up for them. They are rich. They will have input, especially Chris. They just will not run the show and hurt it. It should be run by fans, like this site is. And I appreciate very, very much that you're making the effort to not hurt me or my family. Just don't discuss the K&D situation and trust me not to hurt Chris either. I could have many times, but I kept him involved. So just chill. He just has to change the structure and be monitored so nothing precious of Francis's daddy gets destroyed, that's all. Email Brooke. She's got a total plan. We can have this up and running within the next 2 weeks, and it can be a democracy run by you guys and not me. It isn't my site, but I will protect it, okay? So for the cool ones, thanks for the truce. Stay where you are and have some faith that this guy was my best friend I'll ever have, and I will do whatever it takes to protect him and the music he left behind. I swear to that. CL. Hey idiot, you'd have had your box set and a new Nirvana album 3 years ago if they hadn't tried to trade up over at the management for Dave's Foo Fighter renegotiation. And so you understand, there is no question about who owns what. Legally and totally, me and my family own everything. If anything, this was more of a fight with Universal than anything, but also a fight to prevent a repeat of the Wishka Live record, which was an idiotic disaster. The law, honey, the law has been decided. And I'd love it if you got your box set and any other stuff from a dead person as soon as humanly possible, as has been my position for a long time. Why don't you investigate instead of talking out your ass? I read your post, and it's obvious you want me to read something when you've done no homework. This is about a lot of things. Mostly, it's about Universal and the fact that there are forces at Universal who would throw this out like a piece of slop. If they don't respect even no doubt, back, the Wallflowers, Sting, you two over there, why would the president give Nirvana any fucking marketing and attention? He's like a mad Caesar over there, and he's on all this Ritalin and whatever shit he's on. I'm looking for someplace else in the Universal system, other than Interscope, to put it out. But John, Gary, and Grohl, who has zero publishing, repeat that like a mantra, no more than the drummer of Nine Inch Nails, who is also a good drummer, Want to trade up on the box set, sweetening their own deals and imperiling its existence. Would you like to pay $100 for it or 20? Because I'd like it if you fucking paid $20. God, hair shirt with fleas, headless stump, shit, fuck, lice, carrion of worms and life and death, yawn, your fuck handheld oxygen shelf. Is there a God? Can I polish his knob? Hey Antoinette. Eat your cake and burn your bitches at your stake. May I use your own words, Christ? That's a Nirvana song. Kurt wrote it. All Nirvana songs are songs Kurt wrote. His family owns and has always owned the songs he wrote, which is all of them. That's a Nirvana song, says your guy. Because why? Because Kurt wrote it, clear, bonehead?